I don't think some of you fully understand just how giant Shimano's catalog of reels are. It's something that even I didn't really know until I did some research and looked on their website and realized there are so many fishing reels for every single application. I mean, if you're ice fishing for bluegill or you're jigging for tuna, they have something for every style of fishing. It's insane. Because there's so many reels, I think there's some kind of lost gems in that catalog, maybe reels that aren't talked about as much as others. And there's also some reels that kind of get mixed up with each other. And that's kind of what we're going to be going over today. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the differences between the Shimano Sedona, the Shimano Sahara, and the Shimano Nasci. 3 reels, in my opinion, that are all fantastic, all have different uses, and are all very misunderstood and confused with each other in today's market. So let's talk about it. Big shout out to Shimano's website. They have a really nice feature on there. It's called the compare feature, and you can basically go in and, for instance, I'm going to be putting in the Sedona 2500, Sahara 2500, and Nasci 2500, and it'll compare every single spec on the reel, which is super helpful when looking at stuff. All right, so there is actually a couple new products that are out since the ones that I have here. There's a new Sedona called the Sedona FJ, and there's also a new Sahara as well. I believe it's called the Sahara FJ. And then there's the Nasci FC, which is also a bit different from the one I have here. Most of the reels, they pretty much all have the same specs on them. They just kind of have some different colors and maybe have a couple extra features on each one. But I'm going to compare the main ones that you're still going to see a lot of in stores today. We're going to kind of go over the broad, the ones that you know, the ones you've seen in a tackle store, and the ones that are available right now. Alrighty, so here are the specs for all 3 here. Now, one thing you'll notice right off the bat is the gear ratios are a little bit different, and I think that also depends on the reel as well and the size of the reel. I think 6.2 to 5, I don't think that's a huge difference with spinning setups. Maybe if you really, if you're fishing super finesse, that 5 will help, but I don't think that's something you should really be comparing too much with the spinning reels here. The big thing that hits me right away here is looking at the drag capabilities. If you guys look at the Sahara and Nasci, which hold 20 pounds of drag, and then you look at Sedona, which has 9, that's a huge difference. The new Sedona, I'm not sure, that could be a different scenario. They could have, upgraded it and fixed that. However, that's a big difference. And on big fish, that could mean, that could definitely make a difference. As for line capacity, they all hold the same here. The 2500 size is going to hold 140 yards of 8-pound test for all of them. Now, ball bearings is a pretty big difference here. 3 plus 1 ball bearings for the Sedona, 4 plus 1 ball bearings for the Sahara, and 5 plus 1 ball bearings for the Nasci. That's definitely a big difference, and you can definitely feel it when you use these reels. The Nasci is way smoother than the Sedona, and I also think it's smoother than the Sahara. I think the Sahara is a little bit smoother than the Sedona, so it does make sense. A lot of times I'm not like a die-hard bearings guy, like I'm not counting the bearings in my reel to make the purchase, but it is something I do think can help and make a reel smoother. Now, one thing I did add into this chart here that Shimano didn't have was the sizes available. Sedona has anywhere from a 500 to an 8,000 size reel, whereas the Sahara and Nasci have a 500 to 5,000. So, if you want that bigger reel to hold a larger spool and you're wanting that 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 size reel, right? Sedona is going to be the one to go to, not the other ones, obviously. The last thing here is another thing Shimano didn't have on there was the prices. So the price for the Sedona is going to be about $80 depending on where you shop. Sahara is going to be $90, same thing, kind of anywhere you go. And the Nasci is going to be $100. So there's basically about a $10 difference for each reel as you go up. Now, based on the information we just covered, let's talk about each reel and what I personally would use this for. So the Sedona, I really like the small sizes in the Sedona, right? This right here is the 500 size, and this thing feels incredible. A lot of you guys that have been watching my ice fishing videos know that I use the crap out of this reel right here. This thing, I mean, they're workhorses. They're really hard to break. They're for $80 bucks. This is a fantastic reel. I think when I bought mine, it was like 60 or 70. I know the Sedonas have gone up in price a little bit, but overall, it's a fantastic reel for your lighter applications. This is one of my favorite reels for, you know, panfish, small bass, and smaller trout applications. It's really fun. They're just really comfortable. They're nice to hold. These are not a bad option to buy a couple extra for, you know, if you're using for like an extra rod outside, you know, or like if you're casting with one rod and then you've got maybe bait sitting out on another rod, or you just want an extra setup to use, but you don't want it to be a bad setup. This is a great option for that because it still is relatively cheap. The one thing, like we talked about earlier, is that low drag kind of stinks, but overall, it's still okay. I haven't had like my drag fail me on any fish yet, and I still have hooked some decent fish with this reel. I know a lot of you will probably comment on a lot of my review videos. It's funny if I talk about like a low drag or something not being good, you guys will post in the comments like, oh, I caught a giant on that fish. I caught a giant on that one. It's fun to hear your stories with some of these lower budget reels, and it's awesome because these things can take some really nice fish. But yeah, overall, if I was targeting like just specific trophy fish, I'd probably upgrade my gear to something a little bit smoother. I do have a friend that uses this in the saltwater. However, he says he has to replace it every couple years, even if he cleans the reel after fishing, because he just says everything inside starts corroding and kind of getting gunk, and it just kind of starts failing on him. So it's something to think about if you guys are like doing a lot of saltwater fishing. I don't think this is the best reel for that. Maybe that new model of Sedona that's coming out will have fixed a couple of the problems that I kind of talked about today, but who knows? I got to do more research on that reel that's either coming out or has already came out. Now let's talk about the Sahara right here. This is the big one, I think, that kind of gets lost because the fact that the Sedona is really, you know, a staple in Shimano's lineup. And then you've got the Nasci, which has been out for, I think, 4 or 5 years now and has really just won the hearts of so many Shimano fans. And I think the Sahara kind of gets lost in that mix. So the Sahara for me is kind of the perfect bass fishing application. This one right here is actually one of my good fishing buddies. When I worked at Bass Pro Shops, he came in, he wanted a setup that he can kind of use for a little bit of everything. And this is the reel that I sold him because I just know they're workhorse reels. They're great reels. They're going to get the job done. This is a great bass fishing option in my opinion. The 2500, my buddy, he's caught tons of bass on this thing. It's got a little bit better drag, which is nice. So if you hook something big, you know, you're probably going to be a little better off with it. I still don't think this is the best option for saltwater application. I believe it's probably going to hold up the same as the Sedona. It'll probably work for you for a couple years, but once that salt gets into the gears, you know, and all the hearts, the heart and soul of this reel, I think it's eventually going to corrode that stuff and the reel's going to really fail on you. So I don't think this is another great saltwater option, but it can do if you're just going out once or twice a year and you don't want to buy a whole new setup for it. As I talked about a little bit, I do think this reel is pretty durable, but I don't think it's as durable as the next option that we're going to talk about here. And that is hands down my favorite reel of the three, and that is the Shimano Nasci. Now, I've done reviews on all three of these videos, and I think back then when I did the reviews, I didn't do like the ratings. Nowadays, I rate the products at the end on a scale of 1 to 10. And for the most part, I give all reels a pretty high rating, but I think if I were to have rated this reel, this may be a 10. This reel could potentially be a 10, if not a 9.5. This reel is absolutely incredible. I love the Nascis. One big reason why I love these reels is because they are saltwater sealed. So not only does this help you in situations where you're fishing saltwater, right, which, you know, born and raised in California, I fished a lot of saltwater. It was a lot of fun. These reels held up incredible. This is actually the one that I used in the saltwater. This is the 4,000 size. I got put a custom hand, knob on there. This thing has battled some absolutely giant fish for some of you that have been following my channel for a long time. Big halibut, sharks. This thing's taken on some mega stuff, and it is now on my ice fishing lake trout rod. It's on a Frostbite dump truck, which is a 39 heavy, and this thing is incredible for lake trout as well because it's got a super strong drag on it. It's a smooth drag as well, and it's extremely durable. And when you're ice fishing, you need durable reels because they're constantly falling on the ice ice, you know, and they're on, you know, ice chunks and water's getting in them, and they're constantly getting dirty and thrashed on the ice. So you need something strong, and that's why I use the Nascis. I got a couple Nascis and I use them all on the ice. Yeah, this reel is incredible for saltwater application. This is definitely, of all three, if you are thinking about fishing saltwater at all, these are the reels to go with. My only complaint is that I feel like these reels are a little bit bulkier than the Sedona and the Sahara. Like this right here is a 1000 size, and this thing, it just feels a little heavy. It definitely feels durable like a tank, but if you're fishing like a lot of finesse bass fishing stuff, I'd think about maybe sizing down and maybe going with a Sahara or a Sedona, just because I feel like it's a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more finesse. And that is a part of Shimano's deal, is they have kind of some finesse spinning reels and they have your power, spinning reels. And this is in more of that power section, not the finesse section. However, I have felt the new Nasci in stores and it does feel a little bit more sensitive than this one. However, I still think the Sahara or Sedona just feels a little bit better for bass fishing, your panfish, trout, some of that type of stuff that takes a little bit more touch to it. Don't get me wrong, it still works incredible for bass. I still have taken these out bass and trout fishing and they work great. The main thing for me with these is the durability. These things are tanks. I've been fishing both my Nascis hard on salt and ice and I haven't had any problems yet. These things have just been thrashed on me and they work incredible. All right, so going over all three here, I think the Sedona is a fantastic bass, crappie, trout, bluegill, all around like finesse panfish type reel. I think these work fantastic. The big ones too, like the 6 and 8000, those work great for crabbing as well because you just need a big reel to huck those snares out. So that would work great. Very inexpensive, awesome option. I think the Sahara is best for overall bass fishing applications. I think it's a little bit smoother and more finesse than the Sedona, but at the same time, I also think it's still very durable like the Nasci. I think it's a good combo in between here. Then the Nasci is probably the best budget saltwater reel on the market today. Most saltwater reels are way more expensive than this, and I think this does pretty much the same job as a lot of those other ones. So the Nasci I would use for all around saltwater, maybe some bigger fish if you're just targeting some trophies and you really need that extra, workhorse durability, good drag, everything you need, everything to work just a little bit better. This is a great overall option for that. Also great for ice fishing and great for, big saltwater fish too. If there is something about this breakdown that you guys did not agree with, or you just want to add an extra point, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. If you guys enjoyed this video, I've also got 2 more up here for you guys to check out. Hope you guys enjoyed this little breakdown here, and we'll see you guys next time on Humbug Videos.